Hi. Today I want to talk to you about knowing when you're ready for a relationship. I get asked this question all the time from clients. When do I know I'm ready for a relationship? Let's say that your heart was broken and maybe months or years have passed and you're not sure if you're ready to go back into a relationship, a new relationship, because it was so difficult to process the one that broke your heart. I have a lot of compassion for that. I have a lot of understanding for that. I've been there, and I'm sure many of you have as well. It's not easy to recover from this, but I can tell you some signs that you will know when you're ready for another relationship. And there are three that I'm going to talk about today. And the first one is not being afraid to be alone, not being afraid to be with self. And I don't mean for an hour or half a day. I mean for periods of time where you enjoy your own company and feel comfortable in your own skin. And we can achieve this by connecting to ourself, doing the work with self, not running away from it, not distracting ourselves from the pain, but being with that part of ourself that feels vulnerable, that feels anxious, that feels fearful. Not about just getting into a new relationship, but maybe has been carrying around this wound for years and decades. And that's where we start with the healing. I've been a relationship healer and coach for many, many years, and I've worked with couples and individuals. And I can tell you this, no one likes desperation in another person. It can be flattering at the start if somebody really, really wants to be with you or you really, really want to be with them. But if it comes from a place of desperation and the fear of being alone, it won't work. It just won't work because it'll be a very unbalanced relationship. And in our relationships, what we're really looking for is to be securely attached, and that is not a sign of secure attachment. Securely attached people have a balance in their life where they have equal times of being alone and equal times of being with someone else, and both of those feel comfortable. So it's really important to achieve this balance of being able to be with self and with others. And as I said earlier, that starts with us healing those childhood wounds, perhaps the mother wound or the father wound. And I talk about this on my course, The Paradise Process, which are 4 pillars of healing. So when you're doing this work, you want to create some awareness of your patterns so that you can interfere with them going forward and not repeat them. You then want to have some acceptance of self that you develop these patterns in childhood, and you did the best you could, and they are called survival strategies or coping strategies, and they absolutely can save your life. And they have, certainly your emotional life. But now they're getting in your way. So the next pillar is consciousness, because when you have awareness and acceptance, you have much more consciousness about what is going on emotionally for you. And finally, you make better choices, because the fourth one is choice. You get to make better choices, or you make the same choice with more knowledge and information. Now, the second sign of being ready for a relationship is that you have the ability to process the triggers. We all have triggers or activations. Maybe somebody says something to you about how you look and you find that very triggering, or about your education or about your family or anything in your life. And sometimes these triggers are very unexpected because they're old and they're based on and attached to, again, childhood developmental wounds. And when we are triggered, what most of us do, because it's like a gun, if you think about trigger, there's that small metal piece that actually isn't dangerous in itself. And if the gun isn't loaded, if it's empty, nothing happens. But if the gun is loaded and you pull the trigger, there's an explosion and somebody gets hurt. So what's loaded in the gun? Well, those are your childhood developmental wounds. They are your personality adaptations. So for example, a child that has been ignored in their life, has not been seen and heard and accepted, may develop a personality adaptation of people pleasing. And in that people pleasing, they will get their self-worth from others outside of their family unit and outside of their caregivers and parents. And they continue to do that for years and decades, and then wonder why they're so exhausted, why they don't get anything back, why their cup is empty. So processing triggers is becoming activated, pausing, going inside, not blaming others, and saying, what is going on in here right now? What message is this for me? Because I believe that people show up in our lives in two ways. They show up as a mirror, they mirror something to us, or a messenger. And of course, the same person can be both. They can be both a mirror and a messenger. It depends on when they show up in our lives and how long we are spending time with them, because we may see both of those sides of them in our lives. So being able to process triggers is going to be a really great skill for you to have going into a relationship, so that you don't blame the other person. Because I've been guilty of this. I would get highly triggered and blame the other person. And after years of being in not successful relationships, I realized that I was the common denominator, not them. And in that, I was going to go inside and have to find out what it was in me that had a need. Because as we say, tension requires attention. So if there's some tension in your life, especially with another person, it's always good to go inside first and give that part of you attention. And that is what healing looks like. And finally, they're all important. This one I think is really super important, though, is to know what you want. Because I work with a lot of people and I say, what do you want? And they're like, well, I don't know. I don't know what I want, but I know that this is not what I want. Now that's a good start, to know what you don't want. But where focus goes, energy flows. So if you continue to focus on what you don't want, you'll get more of it. And I can promise you that, because that's how the brain works. So you want to focus on what you do want. And it's really important to be clear. And I'm not talking about a checklist of they have to look like this and earn this much money and live here. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about their qualities, their emotional intelligence, their emotional evolution, their ability to communicate with you. These are the important things. That they have a level of respect and understanding. They're allowing themselves to be vulnerable, and they're okay with your crazy parts. And you're okay with their crazy parts as well, because we all have them. We all have them. We all spiral out from time to time, and it's super important that we have somebody in our lives that can be constant for us and that feels safe to us. Because in relationship, we're actually not initially looking for love. We're looking for safety. Because if we don't feel safe, emotionally safe, physically safe in a relationship, it's not going to work. So we need to feel safe in a relationship and secure in a relationship in order to allow ourselves to be vulnerable and to be loved. And finally, on that point, you need to be able to say what you want. Not demand it, not command it, but just to say what you want, to be connected with that and to be able to communicate that. I hope these 3 tips have helped you. Thank you very much for bringing me into your life on this journey with you. Stay safe, and I'll see you soon.